Hi, what's your name?
Gerald Picard.
Now, apparently you wrote a book on handology.
Yes.
Handology. What is that?
Handology interprets the epigenetic markers in the hands based on our environment.
Okay, epigenetic markers.
Right.
Give it a more common term for the layperson.
For example, if you were a passionate person, okay, loved life, it was beautiful, but you were brought up in a violent environment, epigenetics causes a gene to cloud the original passionate gene, then you become violent.
Okay, so now how's that tied in with handology, and what's handology in contradistinction to palmistry? Because people would see palmistry from handology.
And that's the problem I've been having. The problem is that I interpreted the genetic markers. It took a long time by going to university medical research. For example, the third finger longer than the first defines that there's more testosterone in women than men.
Okay.
And the reference to this is that this examines the hands. It doesn't read it because there's too many variables. You can't define all that information and figure out the variables because this one book can examine 6 billion people. Palmistry, you read the book, try to remember it. This examine, it's a tool.
Okay, what does it examine, for example?
It examines if this phalange is longer than this or shorter, okay? If you got a supple thumb, okay? If the fingers are longer than this part. These are epigenetic or genetic markers.
That doesn't that also deal with or included in palmistry?
Yes, it does.
So how does this differ?
They got the wrong information. They don't have medical information. For example, Berkeley and Liverpool University defined the definition of the genes associated, why is this finger longer than first? Or why is this finger longer than this one? And what's the interpretation?
So you've got a lot of science behind what you're saying.
Very much so.
And where did you get that from?
Research.
40 years.
40 years of research. And fabrication. I had to go in asylums, I had to go to the jails, I had to go to successful executive corporations, and I had to look at 9 different types of people to define whether that interpretation is correct or not with that genetic marker.
So let me get the math straight. You spent 40 years before you were able to publish that book?
I spent 16 years for the first one, very small. 2001, bigger. 2003, this one, now it's online as 5 books in Apple's iBookstore.
So, pun intended, did anyone give you a hand in writing or researching this book? You did that all yourself?
All right.
That's a long time, my friend.
I used it, and it found out I was going to have a heart attack at 55. Went to my cardiologist. They said, yes, you do have heart disease, and you're prone to blood clots. But when they gave me the medication, the heart attack still showed up. But when the time 55 came, the heart attack was smaller. I survived it. But after the heart attack, the genetic markers all changed. No more heart attacks.
So when you knew this information about yourself by analyzing your own hand, based on your research, which gave you areas of expertise in these areas, you were able to deduce and accurately help yourself.
Saved my life.
And how did you do that?
By looking at and defining the genetic markers that caused heart attack. So I had those markers, that I did something about it by going to the cardiologist to resolve it.
And how did he resolve it? Did you change your diet or do other?
He gave me some medication for blood clots and heart disease, but they missed something. I still had the heart attack is because I had an artery that was, they needed to put a stent in. After they put the stent in, the heart attack was over. Everything in my hands changed.
Okay, so let's talk about other types of health markers that the average Joe can maybe understand. I know you don't have to read your book.
Anything from psychosis, neurosis. I've examined 15 psychologists, 10 of them were psychotic. Diagnosing wrong patients, I did their patients, and I was hired by the community of physicians because they were concerned about the patients being diagnosed.
What can you say on a person's hand that's common with most people that would have certain health markers?
Okay, if a person's got a supple thumb, okay, they tend to be at the right place at the right time. Call it coincidence, but that's what it is. If you look at movie stars, 80% of them all have supple thumbs. Okay? Some people that don't have supple thumbs, they tend to have to work harder than those that don't. Why? It's a genetic marker. It's a trait defined by our society.
Now, you've done research for 40 years, which means, in your teens, you do the math, you're an older person. So are there markers for having still hair in your head at a late age?
No, that is something
Do you
different.
see that, or
What
is that-
I see is spinal problems, heart disease, neurotic, psychological, anything to do with career ethics, okay? Some people are more prone to wanting to work, some don't want careers, okay? What they do in their life, if it's associated with their psychological, emotional thing, it may interfere with their life.
So can you counsel people on their choice of career or
Yes.
changing careers?
Yes.
Talk to me.
Yes. Okay, if a person's got a high IQ and it shows in their hands, but they don't know what kind of career they want, I examine their whole hand to find out what their genetic ethics for work is, tell them to focus on that. This way they don't waste 5 or 6 years of university.
How do you see intelligence in the hand?
Oh, very much. The depth of the mark, okay, and the length, depth, and the spread.
Okay.
And it's not one particular mark, it's several particular marks.
What about the area of, say, relationships? Are you able to show and improve that?
If somebody's passionately loved, some people can love for the wrong reasons. Sex shows up, you have a passion for sex, okay?
Right.
Some tend to deplete their sex early in life, well, that shows up, okay? Then some people are matched wrong marriage-wise, so I help people with their marriages. So,
Would you also see that some people marry because of the money as well? It's like,
exactly.
so sex
They
is
marry for
one,
the wrong
money is
reason.
the other one?
I help marriages with, okay? I examine one, examine the other, ask them to switch, okay? Some people marry for the wrong reasons. Now, when I examine people that are in love for a long time, examining one hand and the other person is like they're together. It's
Now-
like examining the same hand.
Do you examine the left hand or the right hand or both?
Okay, no, it's the passive and active. It's not left and right. So if you're left-handed, the left becomes the active,
Active,
and
yeah.
the other one becomes the passive, and just reverse it. So there's no left hand and right hand.
So what are the kind of subject headings you have in your book, Handology? Let's talk about that.
They are genetic markers and definition, like finger length, thumb width, okay,
Okay.
knuckles, the texture of the skin, bone structure, okay, all that stuff.
How long does it take for a typical consultation?
40 minutes. And you're only examining what's in the hand, so you don't have to go through the book. In other words, when you're looking up one word in a encyclopedia or a dictionary, you don't read the whole book to learn that one word. Well, you can look up one specific genetic marker and find out what it means.
So say, for example, a person's 20 years old or it's a baby,
Yeah.
and you look at their hand. How often would the next
6 months.
handology reading
6
be?
months, based on their environment. If they live their environment long enough, then they'll project what's going to happen, okay? It's up to the person to interrupt that pattern if they've got a problem with their life. For example, I was projected to have a heart attack, okay? I did something about it. Now I got a whole new projection because that heart attack says I wasn't going to do anything past 55 on the other genetic marker with the career ethic. Once I changed that heart attack and defined it and lived it beyond it, now my career genetic marker or the ethic marker took right off. So yes, you can define what's going to be projected based on your current and past lifestyles.
So how often would someone see you? Like, say you help someone that's 20 years old, you help them with their career and their health.
If
When
they're
would you have
doing
to see them
fine,
again?
every 3 to 5 years.
And then you just see
If
where
they're on
there's...
the right path and anything they're doing, like somebody does marijuana, it activates and destroys neurons. It shows in that genetic marker. Okay, then they are destroying their neurons. It shows because I can see what is in the past of what they inherited and what they've done with their life. If it depletes, then they are destroying the neurons.
Okay, in closing, just give me a typical or an important marker that you would like people to know about, that they can probably look on their own hand and see.
It varies because you want to look at all the genetic markers, not one particular one. Okay, in a person's lifestyle, they'll have many different facets that's going on with their environment, depending on what they're focusing on, whether it's a career, whether it's home, whether they're a parent. Okay, it varies very much, right?
Okay.
But it's all to do with if it's healthy, you're not dying, you're not doing anything that's bad, you're living okay, then let it be.
Great. Now, when did this book get published?
Oh, there's several publications: 89, 2001, 2003. This is 2003, and now it's just being republished 2015 for Apple's iBookstore.
Great. So for
Called
more,
E-handology with an E in front of it.
Okay, more information, contact website would be,
www.handology.com.
thank you.